Let's talk Coppa Italia. AC Milan and Inter Milan playing to a 1-1 draw Wednesday in the first leg of their semifinal showdown. The good news, Christian Pulisic got the start. The bad news, Santiago Giménez did not. The worst news is that Tammy Abraham, who got the start in place of Santiago Giménez, scored the only goal for AC Milan on the day. Santi's benching here, Herc. Calm or alarm?
Oh, it's beyond alarm.
Oh, alarmista.
Well, for the longest time, you had all these questions about Santi's level. Where should he go? Where should he go? Where should he go? Then he says no to Nottingham Forest because he didn't think it was going to be a big enough place for him. We see what Forest is doing right now in the Premier League. And then AC Milan happens, and you're saying, oh, it's very difficult to say no to Milan. It's very difficult to say no. And he comes out flying out of the gates. And yet I still had my reservations before he came out flying out of the gates. I didn't think it would be a good situation for him. And now he is now translating that bad mental form. And I want to say mental form because I think with him, it's a mental situation where he's mentally blocked on the national team. You can't convince me that he can score goals at the Eredivisie level, at the Europa League level, at the Champions League level, and he can't score goals in CONCACAF. There's something going on there. And now he's got that pressure. He's got the weight on his shoulders in a place like Milan, which is a place you don't want that weight on your shoulders because the fans will eat you up. That Kovacic will eat you up. And it seems like right now there's too much pressure on Santi, and everybody is joining in on the party. I think this is alarm.
Early nerves or not his level?
A bit of both. Can I say something?
Can I ask you which one you lean more towards?
I'm leaning more towards not your level. And while to export,
this isn't 1990s AC Milan either, you know.
No, yeah, it's and that's a concerning part. And the fact that it's Tammy Abraham who comes in, reestablishes himself as a starter, or at the very least for this game. That for me is a concern when. It's not as though it's a new face, a new signing that's come in. It's an old face that you were supposed to be brought in to replace or an upgrade on. And now, as a club, AC Milan are questioning that decision. That's concerning.
So Sergio Conceição had some interesting comments about kind of exactly the explanation for what's going on with Santiago Giménez. Let's take a look at them here. Of course, Conceição, the manager now in charge of AC Milan, quote, he's working hard during the week. I see him very focused on all the things we do with him and the other forwards. It's not an easy period here in Italy. With teams organized on a defensive level, a normal period is needed to adapt. It will be very important for the rest of the season. I'm sure of it. So if I were to preach calm, it would be because, sure, there's some alarm about Santiago Giménez not hitting the ground running wherever the transfer would be. But I also think that the greater alarm here is the coaching situation in the club, and that there's some sense of maybe Santi's not doing a great job, but also I'm trying a lot of different things in a lot of different ways, and I'm just trying to get something to work. I don't know if I necessarily believe that it's already an indictment that this isn't his level. That's how I see it. What about you?
Absolutely, it isn't. He just got there in January to a team, as we said, one of the worst Milan teams that I remember, and I watched them. Soft spot there for Milan. I mean,
the gray hairs to prove it.
But I mean, it's not pretty, right? I mean, you come into a new team, as you mentioned, with Conceição, who's picking fights with everybody, who probably knows that starting the next season, most likely he will not be there as well. So there's that panic. There's that idea of trying different things, and sometimes you have to earn the trust of a manager, right? When you're a new player, I don't care where you come from, because Milan is still Milan, right? Especially when you play a game like the derby against Inter. So I would wait. I'm not absolutely sure if he's the level or not because we just haven't had enough.
That's fair. I think it's fair to say the jury's still out.
So I mean, you have to say that because to say he's absolutely not at that level, I think would be irresponsible for us after how many games?
To that point, I think probably the best thing for Santi Giménez is a change of manager here. And listen. Kind of,
it's coming.
Yeah, exactly. We've recognized that with AC Milan for some time. So maybe we are being harsh and saying it's not his level, but certainly with Conceição in charge, I don't think it gets any better for Santi Giménez. Also, just from a player's perspective, it's never a good thing when a manager starts to defend you with, he's working hard. I mean, that
he benches you, and the guy who benches you for scores a goal.
And his defense of is we all know that's a throwaway
Yeah.
statement if you've ever heard one.
Yeah.
He's working hard. That is not an endorsement by any stretch of anybody's imagination.
I think Santi's a very good player when everything is in front of him. When he is going forward, when it's about making runs, when it's about seeing the goal, he's a very good player. But when it's back to goal, when it's be physical, when it's you have to do other things to facilitate other players, that's not his game. And he's not going to do well in that type of game. This is alarm for Santi because there's a $40 million price tag on your head. Milan is not a club where they bring in a striker for that money and they say, let's hope he explodes. Let's develop him. They bring in a now type of player. Morata didn't work. He's out. Before that, it was Oliver Giroud who did work. But before that, this team has not had a 9. They are screaming, they're dying for a 9. You have to go back to the glory years to really find a 9.
Did you not? Go ahead.
No, but look, we're asking Santi Giménez, who just got there, to be the guy right away. Where you have
On a struggling team.
You have Lau, an incredible player. I had a chance to play against Poland in the Nations League qualifying live. It's a little bit different, just incredible. Plays differently there. Fights, definitely there's a conflict between him and Conceição, not starting him all the time. It may be Lau's fault too as well, who knows, but he's not playing well. Christian Pulisic, nosedive to what we saw early in the season. All right, everybody, look at Rebic. Look how long Rebic has been. Remember that Eintracht team, Jovic and Rebic. He's been there for a while, lots of injuries, but he hasn't panned out. So I guess you have to put it in perspective. If you look at that Milan team and some of the names out there, and there's some good players on that team, and we're asking Santi Giménez, who got there in January.
You don't feel like there was some of this
at his age?
A month or two ago with Pulisic? With Conceição, then immediately
no, do you wanna know,
were like, hey, is Conceição good for Pulisic? This feels weird.
No. Is he good for Pulisic? It's a valid question. Like, is he good for Santi? But Christian Pulisic, before Sergio Conceição got there, he was still the best player on his team. He was still the face of that team. Santi Giménez doesn't have that credit. Santi Giménez has that pressure of a $40 million price tag. So while we preach how young he is, fans don't care about that. The board's not going to care about that. Sergio Conceição is not going to care about that when his job is on the line. The only person who's going to care about that is going to be Santi Giménez, which why I think he's feeling that pressure. I'm not saying he doesn't have the level. I'm saying this is alarm time for Santi.
Okay. So maybe Serie A is not his level. Maybe La Liga is his level. Good thing for us. La Liga available for you right here on ESPN Plus. Got some big games coming up on Saturday. Of course, Barcelona with a 3-point lead over Real Madrid. So Real Madrid taking on Valencia. Coverage starting at 9:45 a.m. Eastern time. And then at 3 p.m., Barcelona's playing Real Betis. Coverage starting at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time here on ESPN Plus.